A new gender divide is emerging. A growing gap between the ideological views of young men and women is being noticed among Gen Z in several countries across the world. What's causing it, and what does it mean for our future? I'm Anelise, Borges, and this is The Stream.
I've been thinking about this sentiment a lot. What do I need a man for?
So what's the problem with a man knowing his worth? What's wrong with a man having a standard?
Where are we meeting the men that don't suck?
Women are going through hell right now, and it's one of their own creation.
Also, something sick has happened in the world where men are acting like they're the prize.
I'm telling ya, these attractive girls, they go through their entire existence with a man never telling them no.
I don't know if you knew this, but strange men are kind of up there on the food chain as top predators for us, right next to men that we know.
Let's characterize all men as savage bears, or worse than that. That is disgusting.
Up until now, one of the most common ways of measuring public opinion was by generations. That is because members of the same age group tend to spend time in the same spaces, reach milestones together, have similar formative experiences, and therefore same views of the world. But Gen Z seems to be an exception to that rule. According to a Financial Times analysis of data from countries on 6 continents, young men are growing increasingly conservative, while young women are voicing ever more liberal ideas. Today we ask if social media bubbles are to blame, or if there's been a fundamental shift in how we interact with each other and what the consequences are. Joining us to discuss are Luba Kassova, an award-winning storyteller and TEDx speaker. She's joining us from New York City. Sihle Nxokwana, a content creator who's joining us today from Johannesburg. Carlyn Beccia, an author and illustrator from Boston. And Galla, founder of Mensgroup, joining us from British Columbia. Thank you all so much for being part of the stream today. We really appreciate your time. You all work with gender and gender-related issues in one way or another. I would like to ask you guys if this ideological gender gap, if this is real. Is this something that you guys are actually observing? Luba, can I get you to start?
Yes, of course. Thank you so much for having me. So yes, there is an ideological gap, and it is real, but it is not just between the two dominant genders, but also within each one. Just to give you an example from one of the countries that the FT reported on, the UK, the recent survey from King's College and Ipsos shows that whilst the growing proportion of young men are becoming indeed more conservative, there's still 29% of them, for example, who think that being a man is harder than being a woman. But there is a greater proportion, 35% of the same group, younger men, who think that it is the opposite, that it's harder for women, that it's harder to be a woman. And so what I observe is the need for more nuance, because the danger of lumping all men within the same group means that if they are pro-feminist and feminist, they're seen by society as an outlier, and that is a false narrative. So yes, there is a growing minority of more conservative young men, but they're not the majority yet.
That's very interesting. So what seems already to be quite complex is even more complex than we were talking about here. Carlyn, what would you say are the systemic structural challenges defining gender dynamics among Gen Z?
Well, I think the debate is a little bit more nuanced than just women are becoming more liberal. Gen Z women are becoming more liberal, and Gen Z men are becoming more conservative. If you look at the recent Gallup poll numbers that were released in February, they found that, and it was over 12,000 participants, they found that it wasn't that women were becoming more liberal and men were becoming more conservative. It's that Gen Z women are becoming more liberal and Gen Z men are staying the same. Their conservative ideologies haven't changed in the last 20 years. So what we have is a problem where the one side is changing their ideologies and the other side is not. And they're not communicating to each other because social media has created this tribalism in bubbles.
Interesting. So men are just staying put. Sihle, as the sole representative of Gen Z in the show here, can you tell us a little bit more about the men and the women around you of your generation? Is there this kind of disconnect, and almost to an extent that people are saying it's a gender war?
Absolutely. And I think I've seen it more when I was making my content, is that more men gravitated, because I'm personally a conservative. So a lot of men gravitated towards my content, and they saw it as truth, and they saw it as this is what we need. And then women, on the other hand, were saying, this is not for us. Like, you're not speaking to us. This is not how we feel. This is not how we think. And so because I'm conservative, I was coming more for women, speaking to women, and saying these ideologies are not necessarily realistic, because on social media they can make sense, but in real life, this is not how we feel. This is not what we're experiencing. And so a lot of women felt like, no, this message is not for us. And you sort of have to work towards trying to show them how we actually share the same ideologies. It's just that no one is being honest, and no one is being realistic about how life actually works, and not just social media hashtags and opinions, So, yeah.
So how real life actually works. Sean, what are your observations here? I mean, many people are blaming social media actually for this phenomena and for the fact that we don't communicate with each other, but you actually created a safe space within social media for men to actually come and talk and share and be vulnerable. What are you observing in terms of Gen Z representatives around you?
Yeah, great question, and thank you. I see that men are more confused than ever about what it means to be a man and how to interact with the other gender. We have lots of men that are older as well, in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, saying, my Gen Z son is really confused about this stuff and is really scared to speak out and share his feelings or his experiences about any matters that come up, out of fear of getting attacked or canceled. And I think if you can get people in the same room, both men and women realize that they're living fairly similar lives and that they have similar views. But I really do believe and see that general social media is inflaming like these polarized views, and men are really confused by it.
In terms of social media, we have come across this one user who blames indeed what Gen Z are experiencing on the algorithm. Take a look.
This is not normal. This is very alarming. You know what else looks a lot like this chart? Birth rates. Like, birth rates so low that the population will not be able to sustain itself. It's literally what's happening in South Korea. And so what's happening here is that the women are getting more educated, and as we become more educated, we become more liberal. Not really, because men are just as educated as we are. It's the internet. It's the algorithms that only feed us the information that agrees with our view of the world. We spend more time online than we do talking to each other, and it's causing us to diverge in our views of the world in ways so extreme. It's literally the first time in history it's happened. Typically, generations, like men and women, match each other on their views of the world politically.
Luba, does she have a point? I mean, I know you have two sons who are Gen Z, so you're actually witnessing this within your household. What are they telling you about social media?
So what they're telling me, and actually my younger one, 13, we're trying to keep him out of it, because there's been a recent research and a book written by Jonathan Haidt exposing how damaging social media is for Gen Z. But what is very clear is that the algorithms are indeed working very differently and creating different worlds for young men and women, with young men being, by the time they're teenagers, they've been exposed to hardcore porn, and with that, with many narratives which are anti-feminist and misogynistic. And women are exposed to a lot of content around how they need to appear. So that there is a lot of divergence already happening. But even within my household, there is confusion. For example, I was speaking with my children yesterday around what are the role models? What is the role models of good masculinity? And they, to echo what was just said, they were, my younger one said, well, what is positive masculinity? So there is really a lot of confusion around that. And even within my household, I can see that my older son is very openly feminist, whereas my younger son is on the fence. And the reason for that is except besides social media, there is also this narrative which is pushed by both right-wing and more conservative and very left-wing feminists that pit men against women. These are narratives that are very unhelpful, and they it's seen that if women are to progress, men are going to feel worse, which are not true, but it's very damaging.
And jumping on a recent trend online, we asked some of our colleagues here at Al Jazeera a hypothetical question. Take a look.
Would you rather be stuck in the woods with a man or a bear?
A bear. The bear, straight up. Like, are you... Duh.
Bear. Always a bear.
Bear all the way.
I would rather the bear eat me, and then I just don't have to be stuck with anybody.
A man.
Why? There's no chance the bear is psychotic.
The man will kill me. The bear might see me as, like, its own cub.
Bear is almost always safer than any man could be at any point.
I have a feeling the bear wouldn't follow me if I left it alone. I don't have that same guarantee with a man.
Anything but a bear, of course. I don't want to be stuck with a bear, but less so a man, so I'll take the bear. Eat me, get it over with, khalas.
It's funny, but it's also quite sad, isn't it? Sean, your take.
It's tragic. I mean, the 95-year Harvard study where they followed people from, birth until they passed away in their 90s. The number one takeaway from that is that the number one driver of happiness and well-being is relationships, your community and your romantic relationships. And there are psychotic men out there, sure. There are psychotic women out there as well. There are controlling women, there's manipulative women, and there's men like that as well. But it's on an individual basis. So I find it sad to hear that so many women feel that even though I like bears, we live in Canada, we've got a lot of bears, we see them around quite often, that women feel that way about men.
Yeah, it is indeed sad to witness this distance growing. And many people are blaming feminism for that very narrative. I mean, Carlyn, many are saying that feminism has become too radical and has been antagonizing men. It is really a shame, because what feminism is all about is equal opportunity for all, is for everyone to actually be treated the same way. Are you also observing this and this kind of false narrative around feminism?
Yes, unfortunately, the message of feminism has been very much blurred over the last decade. And one of that message is it's really important that we talk about masculinity with our children. And what I found was very fascinating is the American Perspective Survey released a data where they asked conservative men if it was important for them to identify as being masculine. And 55% said yes, masculinity was a wonderful thing. And then they asked liberal men the same question, and only 30% said it was important for them to identify as being masculine. So that, and then you have feminism in between trying to navigate what masculinity means and not really having a clear definition. So these young people, they view masculine on one side, they view masculinity as a positive thing, and on the other side, they're kind of lukewarm about it. And the truth is, no one has a clear definition of what that means anymore.
That's very interesting. Sihle, I believe you want to weigh in.
Yes, I definitely agree with her. And I think it's also just back to basics. And I think people don't fully understand what feminism is. And feminism now is confused with misandry, where now women just hate men, and then other women are thinking, oh, okay, this means that this is feminism, because if you hate men, it means you're for women. So this is basically what it is. And so a lot of people don't even ask themselves why feminism came up in the first place. And it was actually very interesting for me to read studies on why women were not allowed to vote back in the day. And one of the predictions was that if we're seeing men and women as equal sexes, it means that chivalry will die, because men will say, okay, if I can go to war, then you can go to war. So why should I be kinder to you? Why should I, try to protect you if we're the same thing? And so that's why things like GBV are very big in this day and age. And so that's why I'm saying that we should go back to asking why. Let's ask questions about what is this, what is that, because all of these definitions now are just so confusing and nobody knows what's what.
Sean, I have seen you nodding, and I know you I know you have a few things to say there.
Yeah, you know, people think, oh, men's groups, they must be in there trashing on women and that kind of stuff. And it's actually quite the opposite. We have 300-pound, you know, biker gang dudes, guys calling in from jail, guys that have all different kinds of backgrounds, and they all want to have these conversations with other men and with women to sort through this stuff, but they don't feel safe to do so because they've been attacked.
That's interesting. So men don't feel safe to actually approach this. I want to share another idea that we found on social media and then get your reaction. Take a look.
We are men's rights advocates and we want to smash the patriarchy. Damn right, it's about time. We are tired of benefiting over women. That's right. It's time we stop financially dominating women. That's just leftover patriarchy. Finally, a man said it. Women can do anything we can do. They are tired of the patriarchal view that we must provide for them. What? Women don't want to be financially dependent on men. They want to pay 50-50 in a relationship. Sir, I think you're confused. They're tired of the patriarchal view that women are mothers and men are providers. They should be paying child support too. Okay, hold up a second. They want to propose. They want to buy the expensive engagement rings. They want to... Okay, that's enough. I don't know what part of patriarchy you think we want ended, but not the parts that benefit us. Hello? Wait a minute. Financial dominance is a huge part of leftover patriarchy. It literally stems from a time where women can own their own bank accounts. I'm confused. Oh, so now you're trying to hold us accountable to our own double standards.
Sean, I want to get your take here. How much of what we're witnessing has to do with the revolution of what is expected from each other here?
Honestly, I think it has more to do that when I was a young person, I was exposed to the people on my playground or on my sports teams, and not people like that person, that example you just gave, that is supercharged about and passionate about a specific topic. And we don't know where that might be coming for that person. We don't know what traumas that kind of person has been through. Everybody has their own individual story. And so now Gen Z folks are getting exposed to these radical views, and at times where they might not be able to process through them logically. So to me, I see a lot of guys seeing this, seeing their kids get caught up in this, and having no idea what to do with it.
Sihle, you were laughing at the clip. What is your take?
Because I actually made a video a few days ago about that, when I was saying that it's very dangerous to say things like, get rid of the patriarchy, because you don't seem to understand that there's parts of it that you benefit so much. And so that's why when she was saying that, oh, no, don't remove the parts that we benefit, I was like, exactly. So you can't say things like get rid of it completely. What you can say is there's parts of the patriarchy that are very toxic. Can we please fix that? Can we look into that? Because I think women don't realize that there's parts of it where they've benefited for generations. And if we had to take them away, you wouldn't be happy. And a lot of comments that I got were people saying, oh, okay, I'm not a feminist anymore. Let's leave it. Let's stop it, because I thought that if I say get rid of the patriarchy, it's something else. And which goes back to people don't know what these words mean. People don't know where these things come from. They can't take these ideologies and put them realistically into their lives and see that, okay, this is how I experience patriarchy. This is what it is in my life. So is it something that I want, or is it something that I do not want? They just take other people's ideologies or opinions about it and say, okay, she's right. That's it. Let's do that.
What is fascinating here is that we're talking about these concepts and ideas, and obviously this affects us all in a very profound way, because this has a lot to do with the way we relate to one another, and furthermore, how we experience love for one another when it comes to couples, for example. I wonder, what is your vision for the future? How is this disconnect or dissonance among Gen Zers, how is that going to affect their future? I mean, Carlyn, what do you predict the future of this gap to be?
Well, one of the big talking points that I hear from the extreme feminist left, and I quantify that with extreme, is that you will be happier if you are single and never get married. And I need that talking point. Breaks my heart because it's simply not true. The data shows that not only will you be in a higher economic class if you get married, but you will be happier and healthier. So my hope is that women and men listen to the other side. They should join men's groups. Men's groups should open it up to women. They should listen to them. If you're a liberal, you should listen to conservative news. Conservatives should listen to liberal news. I mean, when I hear the data that women, especially liberal women, will not date a Republican, I get it. I'm not in the business to tell people whom to love. But they should at least develop more moderate views and listen to them before making decisions. So that is my hope. If we can get in that direction and get kids and young people out of their bubbles into the classrooms talking about these issues, we'll do a lot better.
Sean, women in men's groups, you're favorable?
Oh, yeah. We've had women come and speak in men's group, and men are open to it, A lot of men are open to the ideas behind the feminist movements and some of the criticisms of the patriarchy. What they don't like about the movement, what they don't appreciate, is that if they share their views in a situation on it, they're immediately shut down for being a man, or, oh, of course you'd say that, you're a white man.
And how do you bring men and women together, in your opinion, Sean? How do you see the future of this ideological gap? Is it bringing people offline and into the same room, as you said before?
I think that's part of it. I think it's also looking at the research. The research, as everybody here has outlined, clearly states that people are happy in relationships for the most part. People are happier in community. People are, everybody's on their own unique individual journey with their unique pasts and past traumas and things they're wrestling with. And when you sit across from somebody at a coffee shop or something and you hear their story, no matter what their political views are or their gender views are, it's hard not to feel close to them.
Luba, what are your hopes for the future of this generation, for the future of your sons?
Well, my hope is that every crisis eventually leads to the next level of development, and to harmony. So I'm an optimist. I believe that out of this incredibly painful period, we will come on to more harmony. The question is at what cost and when. And one solution that I would like to mention is the importance of education, and education which is non-judgmental but anchored in empathy, starting from primary schools, secondary schools, universities, helping understand what is it with what are the social norms that we've inherited for millennia now that are damaging and no longer serve us and lead to, for example, endemic levels of violence against women. And also, what are the norms that we can cultivate to strip the guilt that young Gen Z men are carrying that doesn't belong to them?
Sihle, what about your views for the future? I mean, how do we start spreading more love as opposed to this war?
Yeah, I think what I try to do on my channel is that I try to show women that they need men, that they want them, because I know that they have those feelings. It's just that these days you can't openly express that you desire to be married and you desire healthy relationships with men and women because you get called names. And so I just try to show women that you love being with men, you benefit from it, and also show men that you see women as undesirable, but this is how we can fix it at this point. And I think if we constantly encourage even just the way that we see each other, and also just encourage social media literacy, because people can't find it hard to think for themselves. They find it hard to be independent thinkers. And if we encourage people that don't just take what you're hearing someone say, take that, listen, try to dissect it in your head and see how that relates to you personally. Is that something that you can accept or not? And then from there, we'll see it being easier for us to be able to listen to each other because you have a habit of listening when people are speaking. And so I think, yeah, just showing people more that, guys, we're better together. We're better together. Social media doesn't tell you that we are, but this is how we're better together. And you see it in your daily life, in your reality, and that is what we need.
That's a very, very important message. But I would like to thank you guys so much for this conversation today. Unfortunately, we are out of time, but we do appreciate you guys coming here and sharing your views and expertise with us. Carlyn, Sihle, Sean, and Luba, thank you so much for being part of the stream today. And thank you all for watching. Don't forget to stay in touch with us online. You can use the hashtag or the handle AJStream. Take care, and I'll see you soon.